I don't think that Lizzie Bennet should be forced to live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey guys, sorry if I look chopped. I am both ill and there's a blizzard right now in New York City, so I basically can't go outside. But I thought, you know what would be fun? What if I ranked all of the Pride and Prejudice adaptations that I've seen or read? So that's what we're doing today.
Guys, I'm not even lying. A few days after I filmed this video, Netflix announced the trailer for their new Pride and Prejudice coming out in fall. So I guess we have more options to add to our list for next time.
I have my notes on my phone over here. Don't mind me. Okay, so I changed the colors because the regular SABCD ranking system is like the opposite and it's confusing. Like, why are we rating the best as red? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But here are the categories that I made. So the S tier, the best tier, My Feelings Will Not Be Repressed. I would like to think of this as Jane Austen is gagging in her grave positively. These are my favorite adaptations of all time. I revisit them. I think they're very well done, and I recommend them to people. The next tier is A. It is a truth universally acknowledged. So for these, I would say there's great characterization and they understand the plot points. It's just not my personal favorite, even though I probably would also revisit these often. The mid-tier B, the quote is just, I was in the middle. We don't need to finish that quote. This one I kind of think of as, you were good, but I was waiting for you to be great. The next one is the C tier, In Vain I Have Struggled, It Will Not Do. I just think that these books weren't giving what they thought they were giving. And then lastly, Are the Shades of Pemberley to Be Thus Polluted? You know, I commend the effort, but not even Elizabeth and Darcy could save this adaptation, and I would not read it again, nor would I recommend it to anyone. So I'm gonna try and go in the order that I personally watched or read these. This may come as a surprise, but I actually watched the Lizzie Bennet Diaries before I read Pride and Prejudice, which may skew this a little bit, but I would put this in My Feelings Will Not Be Repressed. I think it's a really great adaptation. It is definitely a period piece, with the period being 2013. It has such a good understanding of the story. All of the characters are fleshed out well. I love how they changed the Lydia Wickham plot line to, fit like a more modern adaptation. I love the format. I think it's very clever how they use the framing of a vlog channel to tell the story, and all these like devices that they use to like force people into videos. It's really just unique, and I think it inspired a lot of other web series. Cora's here again. She loves being part of the camera. Okay, the next one is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie featuring Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden. This might be controversial, but I'm putting it in the A tier. I think it's a great movie. It really understands the story well. Very cinematic. Almost a cult classic, and obviously one of the best films ever made. I just think it changes a little bit of the books, and I get it. It's a movie. It can't have everything. But that's the only reason it's not getting put in the S tier. In comparison, I would say that the 1995 BBC TV series does in fact belong in the S tier. Sorry, I couldn't move my mouse there. I think because the format of this, there's more than just, the 2-hour movie. You can faithfully tell the story. I think the acting is great. The cast is also amazing. Colin Firth as Darcy is awesome. Jennifer Eel as Lizzie, she's just so beautiful. I think they portrayed the houses very nicely, and the character relationships were all great. So definitely S tier. So the next one I believe that I read was Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, and I read this back in maybe 2021, but I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Sonali Dev, the author of this, also wrote a bunch of other books in her Jane Austen modern universe, and all of the characters kind of have little cameos across these books in the series. This is like a modern adaptation where Lizzie is a doctor, neurosurgeon, I believe, and Darcy is like a chef. And I don't really remember the full plot or how they met, but I remember enjoying the story a lot, and I thought it was a refreshing take on their characters. And the setting is like in California, and it follows this Indian American family, the Rajas. So you'll see a lot of different characters from the Raja family who are involved in this, but then also the other books in this series. The next one that I read was Eligible by Curtis Sittingfield, and I've actually read this a few times. The first time I read it, I would have probably put it in this D tier, but I have reread it a few times since, and I actually think it's deserving of B tier. I was in the middle. I think this adaptation is kind of goofy. It is set in Cincinnati, Ohio in the 2010s, and both Lizzie and Darcy are like 40-ish, and she's still single, obviously, but she has to move back to Cincinnati from New York to take care of her father after he has a stroke. And so Lizzie and Jane both move back. Their younger sisters are like in their 20s. It's just a very interesting dynamic because they are aged up. And you also learn a lot about Cincinnati in the process. Like, specific neighborhoods are referenced constantly. They talk about Skyline Chili, which I didn't think was real, but you know, as someone who has friends from Cincinnati, I have actually tried it before. It's not as bad as you think. And honestly, the only reason I wouldn't move it up is because I don't think that Lizzie Bennet should be forced to live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Next, I'm going to rate The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet. This is basically just a book version of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries web series. So I'm actually going to just put it in the middle because, I mean, you can get everything that you need to know in this book from the series itself, but it adds just a little bit of context to some of the things that Lizzie as a character doesn't say on camera. You can read it as a standalone, but I think it just makes more sense as a companion novel. And that's the only reason I'm putting it here. Next is Pride by Ibi Boy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm actually gonna put it in the A tier. I love this adaptation. It is a version where both Lizzie and Darcy are, I believe, in high school, and they're Black teens, I think in New York City. Basically, the Darcy family moves in across the street from the Bennets, and it kind of just navigates like young Black love, and I think it's really cute and very sweet. The conflicts that they go through with respect to like class and then also race are very interesting, but also palatable for a younger audience, because I do believe this is a middle grade or YA novel. Fire Island is a movie. I'm not sure if I would put it in A or B, but I do love Bowen Yang, so I think I'm gonna put it in this tier. This is a movie adaptation of Pride and Prejudice set in the modern day on Fire Island, which is, if you don't know, a part of Long Island, New York, that is very famed for its connection to gay culture, and it's kind of like a sanctuary for gay men and women. This movie specifically only takes place over like 6 days. It's like a vacation with the Lizzie character and his friends, and they meet the Darcy character there. I think it's just a fun twist, and the director, Joel Kim Booster, I believe, who plays Lizzie, he really understands the story, and I think it really shows through this portrayal. And then the guy who plays Darcy is the guy from How to Get Away with Murder, Conrad Ricamora. I think he's a great Darcy. Love their interactions in this. Bowen Yang was really funny. And then Matt, he plays Lydia. Very entertaining, great soundtrack. Next, I'm gonna rate Hearthstone by L. Catherine White. This is pretty mid-tier. I don't really remember it much, but it involved like dragons, as you can see by the cover. very different take on this story. It was just like Regency era, but there was also dragon slaying involved, and the Darcy family was like this very renowned dragon slaying family. I don't really remember. It was probably kind of like Fourth Wing, but I never actually read Fourth Wing, so all I know about Fourth Wing is that there are dragons, and that's about it. So next is this podcast on Spotify called Gay Pride and Prejudice. I'm gonna put it in the D tier. I don't really know what to say about this. It's like told in audio format, of course, which makes it kind of difficult to visualize, but I would say it's pretty creative. I mean, the way that they have to reveal information only through audio, so it'll be like recordings of phone calls or like leaked messages or like snippets of people's conversations. I just don't really remember much about it, nor would I listen to it again. Debating Darcy by Sayantani Dasgupta, I think I'm also going to put here. This is another high school version of Darcy and Lizzie where, I mean, they're on the debate team. I just don't really remember much about it. It didn't stand out to me. I think I remember it being cute, but a little juvenile, and I think it is for YA, so I'm not really surprised by that. But it's funny because the author of this book is also like a professor of narrative medicine at Columbia, and I was a student at Columbia while I was reading this book. I just didn't have her, nor did I know that she was the one who wrote it. I'm sure she's a great professor, I just don't think this is my favorite adaptation. Next is Unmarriageable by Sanaya Kamal. I'm gonna put it in D tier. I just didn't love it. I did think it was cool to have it set in Pakistan and just to understand the culture that is surrounding marriage and relationships there. But I think the writing style just wasn't for me, and a lot was happening, but I didn't really get it. I don't know, but I did enjoy that aspect of it. I just don't think this is a retelling that I'm going to revisit. Pride and Premeditation in the middle, of course. This is a murder mystery novel, sort of. I think it is YA, but in this universe, Lizzie and Darcy are teenagers, I believe, and they are both trying to figure out who murdered someone. I don't even remember. Maybe it was Catherine Berg. I don't think it was her. Very fun take on the story. It's not really related to Pride and Prejudice beyond the characters. Very loosely adapted, but I enjoyed it and I thought it was very fun and cute. Elizabeth of East Hampton by Audrey Beleza and Emily Harding. I'm gonna put in this tier. So I discovered these authors because they have an Emma of 83rd Street, which is an adaptation of Emma, and I actually really enjoyed that one, but then when I read this, it just didn't hit the same. For one, the Jane and Bingley meet cute is in like a trashy dive bar in the Bennet's hometown, and she's wearing like TARDIS earrings from Doctor Who, and I just didn't expect her character to be a Doctor Who fan for some reason, so I couldn't take the book seriously after that point. I do think that if I hadn't had that first impression, this would be ranked higher. Unfortunately, that is seared into my memory. Most Ardently is going in the middle. Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoya. Novoya. Sorry to Gabe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. This is a really fun, cute story about a trans Lizzie. I don't remember what his name is in this story. I'm so sorry. It is set in like Regency era, but the Lizzie character basically has to hide the fact that he is, he identifies as a boy in this society. And then Darcy is attracted to boys in this society, but he also has to hide that. So they hit it off after they discover this about themselves, of course, and I think it's a great book for young LGBTQ teens who love Pride and Prejudice. I mean, I think it's a great way to subvert the original story because, you know, in that actual society, I'm sure these things were not really talked about. And it's a great imagination of what an accepting, a more open society could look like, even if it wasn't at that time. Next is Accomplished by Amanda Quain. So I actually discovered her because she wrote a few other awesome adaptations as well. The one that I really liked was the Sense and Sensibility one, but I actually love this one and I'm gonna put it in the A tier, but with a caveat that this is more of a Georgiana story than the Lizzie Darcy story. However, there's enough of the Lizzie Darcy story in the background that I'm gonna include it in this video. But this reimagines Georgiana as like a teenage girl in modern day, and she's like at this public high school and she's trying to recover from this like scandal that she had the year before with Wickham. Of course, it's nothing like super crazy, but obviously it's done a number on her reputation as a student and as a girl. I just really love this like kind of redemption story for her, but then also peppering in the Lizzie Darcy of it all in the background was very cute. Yeah, and I love versions where they either take Georgiana's story or Lydia's story and kind of give them more agency, which, you know, is what happened in the Lizzie Bennet Diaries as well. So that's why these are up here. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, it's going straight to the bottom. I thought this was going to be a fun little romp. I started reading it and it's like the most orientalist, fat phobic book I've ever read. The author basically keeps in all of the original text, but then every so often will add in some context for his universe, which is a universe in which zombies exist and you have to fight them. Besides that, everything is the same. The orientalist part was because when people are trained to be zombie killers, they either train with the Japanese masters or the Chinese masters, and the Japanese masters are seen as better than the Chinese masters. So there's like a lot of like insults surrounding that, which the whole time I was like, why did we have to bring in Asia at all? Like, you guys don't have guns in Europe? I don't understand. And then at the same time, it's also very fat phobic. The author like purposely goes out of his way to call Mr. Collins fat and ugly like every other sentence, and it's just very jarring. Even if I don't like Mr. Collins, I don't think we need to be insulting him every 5 seconds and saying that he's like this disgusting person. Like I just think it's very unnecessary. And it really turned me away from reading this. I only finished it because I wanted to know what happened. Charlotte turned into a zombie and died. So, yeah. Pride and Prejudice in Space. I actually like this one a lot, but of course most of these are going to be in the middle because that's kind of how bell curve works. This one was exactly what it sounds like it is. It's just Pride and Prejudice in space. The one thing that puts this above C and D tier is that the author Alexis Lampley, she provided her own like illustrations for most of this book, so there's a lot of very cool artwork that is involved, including like blueprints of these spaceships that they live in, and then they show some more of the character's personality through like electronic messages basically that are sent. So I think this is a really cool concept. I just don't think it's anything particularly special. Pride and Preston Lynn, I loved. I read this in one night and I don't know, I just loved it. It takes place in California. Preston is the Darcy character. He's a PhD student. Lizzie is like on her 5th year of college. After she changed majors twice, she works at like her aunt's restaurant, and they meet because Preston is like with his friend Charles and Caroline. Lizzie accidentally brings them a plate with seafood in it, but then Caroline is like deathly allergic to shellfish, so Preston makes this whole big scene about it. You find out later it's because his mom was also there and his mom would have made like a big deal out of it. ruining the restaurant, everything. It's kind of hard to explain, but I thought that this was a great take on their characters. I resonated a lot with Lizzie in this one because they're both like Chinese in this one, and I thought when the author adapted Darcy as this PhD student in microbiology, he's also like a decorated former college swimmer. He has all these accolades, but he's also constrained by his Asian parents' like aspirations for him. But also he's like a second generation American. Like his parents were the ones who immigrated there, I believe. So I thought it was really interesting and connected to it a lot. Pride and Protest by Nikki Payne. I apologize if you like this book, but I just hated it. I thought that the conflict was very reductive. The characters themselves, they're fine, but I didn't see any chemistry between the Lizzie and Darcy character, and I thought it was more of an excuse to make this book sexy rather than actually building up their relationship. Like, it just came out of thin air and I didn't really understand it at all. Yeah, I think the message that it was trying to send was done poorly. It was kind of relating to gentrification and development and these rich people buying up properties so they can build a luxury building but not like provide housing to local people. I think that the way that it was resolved was like not good. I don't really know how else to describe it. It just felt like the conflict was too heavy to be put in a story like this and me to find it actually genuine. In contrast, Good Fortune by C.K. Chow, which also kind of dealt with this issue of a rich person buying up land and developing, I think I would put it in the middle. So this one takes place in Chinatown, New York City, and the Darcy character is like this really rich developer from Hong Kong, and then Lizzie is like, she's a New Yorker born and raised in Chinatown, and he comes in and buys like the community center and is going to renovate it. And of course Lizzie's worried about him destroying Chinatown and the sanctity of what they have left of their neighborhood. However, I think in this one it's done much more carefully, and the characters actually have personalities and they interact well with each other. So I just thought this was much better take on that same kind of conflict than Pride and Protest. Most Ardently by Susan Mesler Evans, I'm putting it in the C tier. I think this one was cute and I like that it featured two women, but I think it did fall short with the writing style. So in this one, Lizzie is a Latina girl and then Darcy is black, and they meet at like the same community college. But then I don't really remember most of this because I read it in one day as well. I just felt that the author could have tried a little bit harder, but the plot points were cute and I thought that the characters had chemistry. It just felt a little rushed, but that could also be because I read it in one day. Two more left, which I have read very recently. Pride and Paper Cuts by Stacey Hart. I'm also going to put in this category. Lizzie in this one works at this bookstore / bar, and then Darcy is like this like executive corporate guy who works at an ad agency, but his agency is like working with the bookstore, so they have to come up with this ad campaign together. I think it was cute, but it used a lot of cliches in the writing, and then it seemed too fast paced and I didn't really believe the love story. It's not for me, so sorry about that. And lastly, Pride and Prejudice by A.K. Pittman. I'm putting this in the middle. This is a story that takes place in the 80s in Texas. Lizzie is called Pudge by her sister Jane because she's fat, but no one else calls her that. And that part I find kind of off-putting, I guess. But I guess in the 80s, body image maybe wasn't addressed as much. And the story is a lot about her accepting her identity and also struggling with the fact that the Darcy in the story, he likes her, but she doesn't know if it's because, he wants to try and seem better than everyone else because he likes the girl who isn't thin and on the cheerleading team, or if he genuinely likes her for her. It's kind of like self-exploration. But overall, it was cute. It is also a YA novel, but I think it does well for being YA. So that is the end of this ranking. I know there's more, but obviously I haven't read every single one out there. So yeah, let me know what I missed, and maybe one day I'll make a follow-up to this. These are just the 24 that I have read in my life. Thanks for watching.